What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Finance Opinion. And in today's episode, we are going to be taking a look at Project Lbry, which is a very exciting project from the standpoint of the entire crypto space because it's aiming to do for publications and content distribution what Bitcoin did for money. Now, we're talking about the decentralization of content distribution, allowing it to be free and open to any party involved. Now, this is going to be a complete milestone when it comes to content distribution. What the internet did for education, reading, and content, period, this is that next level beyond. And I know a lot of you probably think, well, the internet's already available and content is free and distributed everywhere. Well, what you don't understand is a lot of that information is held privately on servers or through gateways and portals such as Facebook, Instagram, the platform you're using right now. And those keys to your content, to what you have to say, is behind a private entity. And if they disagree, based on the terms of services, all your content, they have the right to shut you down, silence you, and completely censor anything you have to say. Now, you have to see the potential in giving freedom of speech to anyone, anywhere. Now, if that piques your interest, then this project might just be for you. So let's take a little bit of a deeper dive into Project Lbry. Now, as I had mentioned, this is a very exciting project, not just from the space's perspective, but also from mine. Now, even though I am a content creator, and obviously I can see the benefits of that, and just so in case you guys don't understand, all the platforms I distribute on, whether that be Instagram, TikTok, or YouTube, I've cut most of them out and I'm just on YouTube now, but I have to play by their rules because they hold all the keys to my content. Now, if they disagree with something I'm saying, they can shut me down, they can kick me off the platform, or they can do something as sly as just kind of reducing my views. And quite often they'll do it without even telling you. And it's something I have to think in the back of my head whenever I'm making something. You know, I don't want to be too overt in one direction. Now, I think there's a time and the place, and I'm not trying to open up the conversation about freedom of speech. However, there is a nice knowing from a consumer's perspective that you're getting all the information available to you and someone isn't trying to guide you down a specific narrative or the story they want to tell. And so from that perspective, as a user, as a consumer, I feel like this is a very exciting project. And this is why I'm pretty gung-ho on Lbry. Now, I think there's a number of things that we should probably talk about that you might want to consider before putting this in your bag from an investment speculative standpoint. You got to consider a couple of factors related to this project. And this is a bigger project that I'm sure a lot of crypto guys have already talked about, and there's probably a bit of news out there, but this is for the new uninitiated. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to shorten this down and give you the key stats you need to know first, and then let's talk about the cons and pros about what this project has and whether or not it might be something you want to put in your bag. So let's do the key stats first. All right, let's start at the fundamentals and the base layer of what the project is built on. Now, this project started in 2018 and built its own blockchain protocol to house this technology. And they borrowed a lot of similarities from Bitcoin itself, as they do deem it one of the financial leaders or the leaders in the crypto space, obviously. So this means that this project is a proof of work system. Now, I bet you're probably asking, okay, well, what does that mean? Are we looking at Ethereum gas fees? And fortunately, we are not, because not only are the transactions significantly lower as from a percentage point, but they are also significantly lower as far as the cost of the actual price of the token that you will be transacting in. So these are relatively negligible when it comes to transaction fees for the entire process. Now, when it comes to looking at the project from a top-down view, you can look at this as a three-stack layer. Now, the first layer is the blockchain layer, which is the base layer where the security and the actual fundamentals run, obviously. The second layer is the data network. Now, the data network is where the utility and the use of the actual network comes from. This is where the information is housed, right? On top of that basically big blockchain security layer. So this data network is where your content will be contained. And obviously, once it's put there, anything on the blockchain is housed forever and cannot be removed. But this is where the real utility of that entire network comes from. Then the third layer on top of that is the application layer. Now, this is kind of synonymous with a lot of other projects out there, as they have a very similar structure, things just stacked on top of the blockchain security layer that you really are looking for. So it's not too much different. However, they again have started from their own base level and they've created their own blockchain protocol, of which on top of it, those apps are where people can kind of jump in and really allow distribution of that content to be easier access. Now, anything that is put onto the entire network itself is available freely to anyone. And when you go to use an app, they have their own window portal, which is the Lbry desktop app, that allows you to actually reach in and grab the content and find wherever it is. Now at this point I really could only find so much to do with videos, and I didn't deep dive into what was all available there because I know that this is a work in progress. However, what I'm really trying to illustrate here is that there are separate developments around other apps that can be layered on top, which allow you to access different portions and make it more niche, so to speak. So if you want an app that's more specific to music, that's what that app would be used for. And one that's more specific to text, that's what that would be for. Now, the leading app on there is an app that is actually controlled by the Lbry LLC Foundation, which is the basic, basic coding development team behind the Lbry project, and that is the Odyssey TV app. Well, it was Lbry.tv at one point previously, and now it's called Odyssey. It's essentially a YouTube killer. Now, a YouTube killer is a stretch in the wildest of dreams of anywhere, because that's a huge throne and a big mountain to climb, because I think we all know YouTube is absolutely massive. However, if you've been looking for a YouTube alternative, this is one. And to what I've seen so far, it's probably one of the furthest ones that's the closest, in that it is just a video housing platform where you upload your videos and people can watch it. Now, it has a similar mechanism to the Theta project or protocol, which is kind of closer to, I would say, Twitch. In all honesty, it's really more designed for streaming, whereas this is more about uploading your videos and really having it as a housing platform where people can go search, kind of like a search engine there, and finding all the content you want that way. It does have a live streaming feature built into it, but I really wouldn't consider this as much as that Twitch killer as it would be considered a YouTube killer. And you can find a lot of YouTubers actually on there. They actually have some sort of sharing program where the API can link into your YouTube program and allow you to content distribute over there simultaneously. So you put an upload to your YouTube channel and it will automatically go over there. And we can see some pretty big names over there, like Veritasium. We've got Bitboin Crypto, your favorite crypto YouTuber. We've got Crypto Mason, which is another YouTuber I've seen over there. We've seen it. There's a number of people that I'll put up on screen that are over there, and yes, their followings are nowhere near what they are on YouTube. So this platform has a very large way to go. Something I want to talk about a little bit further on is going to be how free of entire censorship this platform will be. And I think you might be surprised at the results of it. So stick around until we talk about the pros and cons a little bit later. But that's basically what it is, the long and the short of it. Now, it's not just going to be video, it will be music, and it will be text too. And I think this has a long way to go before it reaches the full maturity of what it's trying to purport here. Just as the internet one day started as emails, and all of a sudden it is what we have to this point. So now I wouldn't judge a book by its cover, but safe to say we're not very far yet, although we are making some good headway. All right, now that I've explained a little bit about the project, let's take a look at the token you'd be getting involved with if, say, for instance, you were interested in investing in this. Now, the token you'd be looking for would be the LBRY, is the general ticker or symbol it's traded under. However, most people within the community reference an LBC token, which is, the tokens are called Lbry credit tokens. Now, this token is the token that will be used for all transaction fees, is a token that is utilized when it comes to any compensation or monetary version compensation for content creators if you're going to be purchasing content into the future. And within that Odyssey app I mentioned a little bit earlier, that will also allow you to be rewarded for watching. It's got a very similar theme I mentioned as the Theta network. So you'll be rewarded for watching viewers and can tip them, etc., via that platform with your Lbry credit token. So there is a utility to the token itself, which is a great thing to see within a network or a protocol. Now, we can see the price that we'd be getting involved with right now, and even if we round it up to 3 cents, it's not high, but as we all know, it's all about the market cap. And if we take a look at the market cap, we're looking at about 17.5 million with a fully diluted market cap of 29 million. That's because our circulating supply is in the ballpark of 650 million with a max supply of 1,083 million. Tokenomics revolving around this project are going to be a total of about $1,083 million. And that is over the course of 20 years will be the mining schedule for that. So that's a little bit of that difference within the proof of work taken from Bitcoin. They just kind of changed it around those years a little bit because I don't think they wanted to wait quite as many years as Bitcoin was going to into the future to get all the way there. Now, within that, we do have the actual mining rewards that were distributed out, and we'll take a look at a really cool feature that they've got on their Blockchain Explorer, which is great, but it just mentions here kind of where they started at. So their Genesis block did provide immediately 400 million. So we started off right away. Within that, they're going to be distributing that 400 million amongst several parties. 100 million is going to be directly for the project managing it right there, and 300 million will be strategically earmarked for charities, for content distribution, for incentives across all sorts of other platforms, basically advertising, getting people involved with the project. So they immediately made some 400 million. They decided that they're going to start giving that out amongst people, and then they're going to use that 100 million to pay employees, which at this point they do have a number of employees, which we'll talk about in a second. But this is their blockchain explorer, or one version of looking at it. And this is a great feature. Now, the first thing we're going to take a look at real quick is that these are the top wallets that are held within the top 500, and we can see that over here on the right-hand side. And the biggest one is 11%. I have to imagine this is within the foundation, and probably a number of these are within the foundation. Some of these rounder numbers are probably, again, them, which is good. We like to look for red flags of any one wallet holding too much of it. However, obviously a project could make as many wallets and hold all of them. We do know they do have the lion's share right now. However, if we take a look, I feel like, and I want to state this, that this little feature is a must. And I want to put a ploy here. Give me a thumbs up, a like on this video if you think that this feature needs to be implemented inside of more blockchain explorers, because it is your inflation chart. It shows you what it's going to look like over its entire lifetime, and it allows you to kind of scroll through time. And this is a very handy feature because it allowed me to get market cap data based on previous performance of the entire token to compare it to how it did last time very easily. I could just easily look at what was the market cap, what was the value based on coin market cap, and boom, I just had the numbers. This is a really cool feature. And not only that, but it also allows you to see visually what your token's doing. Cool, I can see there's a deflationary reaction. There's nothing that's gonna spike halfway through it, any particular reason. The vesting schedule isn't something crazy. I really like that. Again, give a like to the video if you like that feature or think it should be included, because I just feel like that should be a must. I don't know why we don't mandate that that's for more protocols out there. Now, in keeping with a few of the things you should be taking a look at when you're looking to potentially invest into a company is, who's in charge? What's the team behind it? And the main guy in charge here is this Jeremy Kauffman. He's the chief executive officer of Lbry, but he's also in charge of their Odyssey, which is a separate entity, which is that YouTube killer platform I talked about. But what we're really looking at is like, what's the history? What this gives us that tells us he's going to actually be able to follow through on this. And we can see he was actually founder and the CEO of a previous company called TopScore, which apparently did very well. If you go check out their website, they actually had a number of clients, and they provided a service for sports related athletes and their management of events or management team, and it allowed them to contract and be able to track all their metrics related to that sort of part. Regardless, it did very well. It was in it for several years. And he also has a Bachelor of Science and a Bachelor of Physics. And not that these are things that necessarily tell me, hey, this guy's going to be able to run a business or be in crypto, but he did have a business that was able to be run and successfully for a while, and was able to go through a college course that took grit, took time and effort to be put in. So those two things give you confidence when it comes to getting involved in a team. Now, as far as going deeper, you want to look a little bit deeper at people and further into it if you are super interested in purchasing into this. Now, I have a number of other things holding me back that we're going to talk about again in a little bit, but this is a good thing that gives you confidence in. But it does point you, if you want to question it more, deep dive a little bit more on the team. Boom, really quickly, we're going to take a look at the social proof, and what we're looking at here right now is the Twitter feed, which has 89,000. Now, this is going to be the first glimpse in some of the major cons that we're talking about. Now, they are very active, and they do have a number. They obviously have a pinned tweet here, but they are active 5 hours ago. They are regularly tweeting out. That is because they're currently being sued by the SEC. Again, we're going to talk about that a little bit further on here, but it's good to see that they're being active even while turmoil is happening, and it's something you want to pay attention to. Is the management team behind it staying quiet while things are getting wild, or are they actively out there responding to people and being active in the community? That's a good sign. Now, the second social platform that you're going to want to pay attention to would be their Reddit, and they do have 14.7 thousand members within that community, which is a pretty decent amount. And something I usually look for within these is, are we looking for zealots and fanboys? And I don't see any of those. It seems more like just general either investors or people involved in the technology who enjoy it, that are actually involved or curious about the development and what they could do to make it better and what are the potentials of this platform. So those are kind of good signs to see when it comes to Reddit forum. Now, if you see a bunch of people die hard saying no to anybody asking a question, that's usually a turnoff. So that's a good little, that's a green flag, so to speak. Now, the third social platform I was able to really get information from was their Discord, which doesn't give us any numbers on the amount of people who have joined the server. And to be honest, it doesn't have a wealth of information over in the channels available to us. I think this is really a place to go for when they have community chats where they would want to open up the voice channels. The general chat does seem to have conversations going, and if you do ask some questions in there, people are generally more than helpful to help you out, as you would expect from a Discord. But I wouldn't necessarily go in here expecting a budding community that's blossoming over the long haul. However, that said, doesn't mean you shouldn't stop by and take a look in there if you are interested. And fourthly, within this social proof, I wanted to throw this in here, and that's the Lbry Foundation, which is an offshoot of the Lbry project that is related to building a community fund that's giving out grants to people who can potentially come up with interesting ways about implementing the Lbry network into some cool concepts that haven't been created yet, some new apps. I think that's them trying to get community members more involved so that they can develop that app layer and really make this a budding and exciting network for people to want to be involved with. Now, whether the process goes through and how much they have to give out, I'm not sure. It might be something to go check out, but I did want to mention that this is a kind of exciting and interesting thing to go about because it's another avenue for them to grow awareness. It's more of that advertising that they're looking to put out there. It's they're spending money on community members to get word of mouth out there by, hey, let's make some cool stuff. Now, I know a lot of you probably don't like this one, but Luna actually did this very well. If we all remember our LFG Foundation from the Terra network, the Luna Foundation did this pretty well and got a lot of members developing on that platform. And I think that was one of the reasons it grew so big so fast. So this could be an interesting gateway to allow that to go further. Now, I don't know how long this has been around and what headway they've made, but it's an interesting thing as far as the social proof is concerned. So as I had mentioned, I wanted to shorten down all the stats really briefly for you so you can get the most out of this video and the things you just need to know. And this is the point where I'll kind of sum up my opinions on the entire concept as a whole and let you know how I feel about it. Now, the major con that we need to talk about that I kind of briefly touched on related to their Twitter page was the SEC is suing them. Now, this is a major hurdle that I think this project is facing and is currently looking to overcome. Now, if it can overcome this, it could be something of a David versus Goliath aspect. Now, this is the same sort of SEC lawsuit that's being put towards XRP and is something that we have yet to see the results of. And in my opinion, this is a major con because this has caused a lot of people to put their eyes on whether or not this project is going to be sued into oblivion by a major US government authority. This is not a good thing. So from an investment standpoint, I think it has underperformed significantly based on all that price action we saw earlier. Now I want to run some quick numbers by you to show this in action. Now I'd quickly like to illustrate what I'm talking about when it comes to the underperformance based on that lawsuit and why I think that's probably been a major earmarker on this entire project's growth into the future. Now we can see the previous performance on that last bull run there around that end of 2017, and we do have this current bull run that we recently saw. It nowhere near got to the same levels. And I'm gonna put up a slide here talking about the numbers real quick so we can understand the market caps and what that means. This is also a good education in market caps. So in the 2017-2018 period when that last bull run happened there was 515 million. And the way I was able to find all this information out really quickly was that previous lovely little chart that was at top of their Explorer. I was able to just scroll to the time period and find out what was the circulating supply. Super easy, it was not hard at all. And I love that little graph. So the 515 million was valued at that high peak of $1.24 roughly, putting a valuation close to 639 million for the entire project. That's that last high peak there. Now, if we quickly zoom on into this peak here in 2021, which was around April time, at that time, there was a circulating supply of 717 million at a valuation at its high of about 39 cents or almost 38 cents. That puts a total market cap of 284 million. Now that's a big difference when it comes to the total market cap and the valuation of that company over those several years. Now we saw a lot of other altcoins in similar perspectives where they were coming from that previous all-time rally to the next all-time high, making new all-time highs and making significantly higher gains even with new circulating supply increases. Why was this one unable to do it? Well, I think it's really two reasons actually. I was gonna say the SEC filing I think is a big damper on the mood, and I think a lot of people are waiting for that to clear. Something to keep in mind. So it might be something to watch a little bit harder. But the second one is related to my next point when it comes to a con related to this entire project, and that's they're basically trying to make a YouTube killer, which is going to be a giant mountain to climb. If I didn't say that earlier, I'm saying it now. That's a big beast to undertake. And honestly, one of the major reasons why that might not happen is related to the fact that where's the revenue model? Now, one of the things we all know moves the world around is money, unfortunately. I mean, even as a content creator here, I could do this more often if I was getting compensated more for doing it. And obviously you put in the work and time, and if you like doing it, then hey, it's a win-win long term. But when it comes to making money, there needs to be a really straightforward revenue model for both parties involved. And that's something that advertisers can bring to a party. Now, it doesn't seem that Lbry has any straightforward advertising future that it's looking to implement at this point. Now, I have seen a number of people talking in different forums throughout those social proofs and some of the documentation where they're not going to allow that to be the case on that Lbry desktop app or within Odyssey. It'd be more of a pay for viewing sort of content where you're getting your Lbry credits from the users who are watching your content. Now, correct me if I'm wrong in anything I read in there. Things have been changing, and I've seen this platform. It feels like it's kind of gotten a little stagnant. I feel like they've still got people uploading. I feel like they still have some big names on the platform itself, but without that, again, direct link to revenue for both parties, it's a real hard one for one to even consider leaving this platform and coming over here solely, let alone even spending the time doubling down. Now, I know they've made it relatively easy when it comes to their content sharing and ability to sync them. However, it's a really big mountain and something I think you need to consider. Now, that was the other major con I really wanted to bring up, and I'm not going to ramble here too much on it, but I think it's a big one to think about. When it comes to content distribution, even in all the other platforms, think about audio. We're talking about trying to compete with people like Spotify, even SoundCloud, and they have revenue models that easily allow them to make money, and if there is some way to content distribute and give the creator some money too, they've got that all figured out because they're bringing in enough money to make it happen. So I see this as being one of those hurdles, and hopefully we start to see a result here into the future. Hey, what's up guys? Stuart from the future here, and I'm realizing when editing this that I'd kind of neglected to mention one of the other key points that I came across while looking into this project, and that was related to the terms and services of utilizing the apps. Now, I'm not sure of the terms and services deeper on into perhaps even the source code, and I'm sure there are some sections of it that might even talk to this point, but one thing I came across while looking at the apps themselves with their little generic templates for terms and services, which are, again, available for every app you're going to use ever, they not only do have some practices of discriminating against age brackets, so you have to be over 13 to use it as far as the terms and services say. I imagine that this isn't going to be the case, but as it stands right now, it does mention that it would like you to be over 13 in order to use it, and they do have a termination or suspension clause inside of it. In both Odyssey's terms and services and the original Lbry app, its own desktop app used for exploring the native content on top of the platform, they have a termination and suspension clause, which, if you don't know what that means, it basically means they reserve the right to kick you off if you're not abiding by the rules. Now, that seems like, I guess, kind of a straightforward point, but it's that gray line we often get into when it comes to talking about freedom of speech and having someone hold the keys to your access to information. This is the same clause that would be used by Facebook to cancel it. They reserve the right to cancel your Facebook account whenever they want to. That's the clause that allows them to do it legally. So this seems to have baked in that same sort of loophole. And I guess some way we could kind of look at this as, well, yeah, sure, these are apps. And again, if you are abusing it by doing something perhaps illegal and things we probably shouldn't even talk about on the stream, then yeah, you shouldn't be allowed to use it. You know, again, maybe you're a bad person. But in that context, again, it's a gray area when it comes to freedom of speech because there could be something that they disagree with that might be easily leveraging this clause that allows them to cancel your usage of that information. Now, again, I'd mentioned that accessing the information that's on the data network layer that allows all the information to be easily accessed, technically I think still exists. So you could theoretically go grab the information at the root level somehow, make your own app perhaps, and easily access it that way without using their app, right? I think that might still be the case. I'd have to look a little bit deeper, but honestly, it's still something I wanted people to know, because I think it's like those little things behind the scenes that people forget about, like, oh, this is going to be the answer to freedom of speech. Well, probably not. Honestly, there's still a company running it. There's still a company managing everything, and there's still a company who's going to be beholden to somebody's opinion as the person running the ship, and whether or not you think it's going to be our boy who's the current CEO or someone into the future. Those can change, and ideas can change along with them. So I thought this was a pretty key point that should at least be noted by everyone getting involved with this. Freedom of speech always comes with a price in some context. So just keep an eye out for it, and just remember that it's probably not as good as it seems. Anyway, back to the end of the program. Now, when it comes to this project, I think there's two people needing to look at this. Wait, why am I holding two hands? Two hands, but two people. There's two people who are really going to be interested in this, and I guess it's the same two who are involved in any crypto transaction. There's people who are looking at this from a complete technological standpoint, and they just into crypto for the love of crypto. And I think you'll find a lot of the people involved in these communities or involved with this project are pro freedom of speech, pro freedom of content distribution, and really just like what they're seeing from a content or technological standpoint. They want to see it grow. They want it to do well. And when you look through the Reddit articles, you see in the Discord, that's where people seem like they're coming from as a general consensus. The other person is the investor looking to put some money into this. And as we know, even though technically these shouldn't be considered investments by the SEC, some people, we've put some money into some of these and done okay with those transactions. So you might be looking at this as, is this something I should throw some money in at these lows to go up into the future? And to be honest, as I had mentioned, there's a couple of big glaring problems that I think it has from that investor standpoint. Now, in my opinion, and remember, this is just an opinion, guys. It's some guy talking on YouTube. It's not financial advice. It's just a guy speaking freedom of speech here. This is exactly what's happening. Personally, I feel like if you're really gung-ho and you want to support the cause for freedom of speech, content distribution, and decentralized nature of everything, this is a project you could get involved with. Now, whether or not you're throwing $20,000 into this project, I don't think that's the case. I think you'll get involved, you'll be involved in the community, maybe look to develop something, and maybe throw a few bucks as kind of like a donation sort of concept, and if you make some money out the other side, cool. But for those of you looking at this as an investment, I think you have to stand back and take a look at it. Is there other things that have given a known performance to do better and potentially will continue making that performance into the future? Now, it doesn't mean that this thing couldn't skyrocket once it clears up one of those major issues, the SEC filing, and starts to come up with a plan for that second one of how to get people to really want to use it. Now, I don't want to look at this too blindly, and I do think there's a time and a place for this, and I think the concept of it, I love the name, I love the concept. It reminds me of one of those futuristic movies where you see the main protagonist talking to the future library. It's usually like a hologram, and they're talking to him, and he's giving him what happened, why is the world in an apocalypse. I like that concept, that the library is going to be a central repository into the future. Obviously, we're talking about the internet, really. And it's cool, the connection being made there to bring it back to the library, which started all of our information journey from a few thousand years ago, where content and information was controlled so tightly, and we were held down as the majority of people by the elites, by the have-has. The haves and the have-nots were kept as the have-nots by their wealth of information. All right, settle down, Stuart. So what I'm basically trying to say is, from a human perspective and from a crypto tech head's perspective, this project's great. Dive in, I'm gonna pay attention to it, I'm gonna start using it a little bit, and I might even throw some of my content over there. If I do, I'll let you know in one of the uploaded videos into the future. From an investor standpoint, I'm gonna sit back and wait till that SEC filing is dealt with, just like I am with XRP. I feel like it's the prudent thing to do, and I think a lot of us are doing it. Now, if you wanna take a gamble, go for it. But I think from just doing the right thing and seeing which side of that fence we fall on when it comes to regulations in the US here, it's not a bad idea to just kind of think about it. So that's really all I have to say on the entire matter. I hope you had some value out of this. And again, let me know what you think about that cool little feature they had in their Blockchain Explorer. I like it, even though it's kind of like a one-time use sort of thing. It's just nice. It's very transparent and useful to come across that information. So this is the point where if you did get any value out of this, or you appreciated the content for what it was, leave a like, a subscribe. It does help the channel, and I really do appreciate it. This is also where I do remind you that yes, nothing here is financial advice. It's just an opinion. Some guy on YouTube just spitting out his opinion of free speech. That's all it is. Nothing more happening here. Appreciate you guys for sticking out with me. and I'll see you in the next video.